Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are getting into something that is, well, it's not just academic. It feels much more fundamental.
Oh, absolutely. We're looking at a set of ideas, really a thought experiment, that is designed to challenge the very operating system of consciousness.
Right. It's built around this single, incredibly potent statement, an axiom.
Exactly. And the sources call it a kind of philosophical singularity, a
Yeah.
point so dense it just bends all the logic around it.
And our mission today isn't just to summarize it. We're going to try and follow the path it lays out, step by step.
From that initial, mind-bending contradiction all the way to what the sources argue is a really profound state of being.
So the core topic is desire. I mean, it's everything, right? It's the engine that built our entire civilization. Art, science, ambition. It all comes from desire.
And yet it's also the problem. For thousands of years, you have Stoics, you have Buddhists, all pointing to the same thing. Desire is the root of our suffering.
Because it's a statement of lack.
Yeah.
To desire something is to say, what I have right now is not enough.
It is the gap, the friction between where you are and where you think you need to be. That's where all the pain lives.
So to get at this, our thought experiment starts with probably the most radical and paradoxical premise you could imagine.
It's a real koyon.
Here it is, and we want you to just let this one land. The perfect desire is to desire nothing.
And right away, your logical brain just short circuits. It's designed to do that. It's designed to show you the limits of that kind of goal-oriented thinking.
So that's our journey. We're going to follow that map. We'll navigate the initial logical traps that it sets up for us.
And then we'll get into the pivot, the really profound shift it demands.
And hopefully we can get a handle on what it actually means to be completely free from want. Not in a, apathetic way, but in a powerful one.
Yes. We'll explore that transformation from being sort of a victim of the story to becoming the author of it. It's a fascinating path.
Okay, so let's start right there with the premise itself. The perfect desire is to desire nothing. If you treat that as a goal, the source material says you immediately walk into 3 different logical traps.
Right, and these traps are not flaws in the argument. They are the argument. They're meant to show you why you can't achieve desirelessness in a normal way.
They're like the gatekeepers that prove you can't just force your way in.
Exactly. Necessary roadblocks.
So path 1. This is the most obvious one, the one that probably hit everyone as soon as I said the phrase.
The paradox of the loop.
Yes. It's this exercise in total futility. To achieve the goal of desiring nothing, you first have to desire that state.
And boom. The whole project fails before it even starts.
Oh.
The moment you apply effort, the moment you say, I'm going to try hard to not desire, you're desiring.
It's the desire for non-desire, which is still a desire. A very strong one, actually.
It creates what the sources call an infinite feedback loop. You're just chasing your own tail. It's a setup for guaranteed failure.
It feels incredibly frustrating. Like if I'm meditating for hours, trying to release my attachments, my biggest attachment in that moment is the idea of being unattached.
Right. It's that classic psychological experiment. Don't think of a pink elephant.
And of course, that's all you can see.
The instruction itself creates the very thing it forbids. Intention, when you apply it to a state of being like this, it becomes the barrier.
So wait, is this just a justification for doing nothing? For inertia? I mean, don't most spiritual paths involve immense effort and discipline?
That is the essential question, isn't it? And the insight here is not that effort is bad. It's that the kind of effort we usually apply, goal-oriented transactional effort, is the wrong tool for this specific job.
So you can't achieve it like you'd achieve a promotion at work.
You can't. It has to happen, sources say, by accident or through surrender. It's about recognizing that your striving is the problem and just letting go of the project.
So it's not a goal to march toward. It's more of a truth you have to fall into.
Precisely. They use a great metaphor. You can't walk through the door of desirelessness. You have to realize there is no door. The moment you stop looking for the entrance, you realize you were already inside.
The loop only breaks when you stop trying to control it.
That's the surrender.
Okay, so that's the first trap. What's the second path? It's about time, right?
Yes, and this one is just as radical. It looks at how desire fundamentally structures our perception of reality, specifically time.
The argument being that desire is always about the future.
Always. It operates on a simple principle. Now is not enough. The future will be better if I get X or if I avoid Y.
It's a constant rejection of the present moment. You're always leaning forward cognitively. You're stretching towards tomorrow, hoping, anticipating.
Even a simple desire like wanting to stay healthy is really a desire to avoid a future plate of sickness. It's future-oriented.
Yeah, so if you truly, genuinely desire nothing, what happens to the future?
Well, the argument is that it vanishes as a destination. You stop leaning forward. You stop because the present moment is finally seen as completely and utterly sufficient. There's no urge to escape the now.
Which leads to this idea of the eternal now. And this isn't some, fuzzy new age concept. The sources are describing a structural change in consciousness.
Exactly. If there's no waiting, no anticipation, no hope for a better future, then what happens to fear?
Fear is always about the future, too. Fearing a loss.
Right. We only fear losing what we desire to keep. If
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not grasping, there's no fear of your hand being empty, and so the fear of future loss is just gone.
I can see how this would change the feeling of time. When I'm anxiously waiting for something, an important email or whatever, 5 minutes feels like an hour.
It drags because you are hyper-aware of the gap between the unwanted present and the desired future.
But when I'm totally absorbed in something, a great conversation or playing music, hours can just disappear.
That's it. That's the eternal now. Time vanishes. And so the argument is that our entire psychological experience of linear time is directly tied to how much desire we are projecting onto the future.
If I stop wanting the workday to end, the day doesn't crawl by. It just is.
It just is.
Yeah.
Your mind, freed from the burden of constantly planning and anticipating and worrying, can finally experience the present moment for what it is. This incredibly dense, rich reality. The waiting room of consciousness just disappears.
Okay, so we've broken logic and we've collapsed time. Now we hit the big one, the hard reality.
Yes, path 3. The biological suicide. This is where the philosopher runs headlong into the evolutionary biologist. And it's a serious collision.
Because life, as we know it, is basically a system built on desire.
It's defined by lack. I lack calories, so the desire we call hunger drives me to eat. I lack safety, so the desire we call fear drives me to seek shelter. Our entire neurochemistry, our dopamine system, is just a reward mechanism for desire fulfillment.
It's the engine of survival.
It is the only mechanism of survival.
So let's play this out. An organism, a squirrel, a person, whatever, achieves this perfect state. It desires nothing. What happens next?
Entropy. It stops foraging. It stops seeking a mate. It stops defending itself. It stops doing everything that defines it as a living organism.
And it dies.
It dies. And so we have to ask the question, is the perfect desire just a philosophical justification for suicide? Or at least for giving up?
This is the challenge the listener is definitely feeling right now. This sounds like a beautiful intellectual way of saying, I quit. How can any philosophy that leads to death be considered perfect?
And the thought experiment doesn't shy away from this. It fully accepts that if you define life only as the self-preservation of the biological organism, then yes, perfect desire is perfect death.
Philosophically, it leads to the inorganic, the most stable state.
Which brings us to that amazing question the sources pose. Is the stone, which desires nothing, the most perfect being in the universe?
I mean, from this perspective.
From this one, limited perspective, yes. The stone is complete. It asks for nothing. It doesn't fear. It doesn't hope. It exists fully in the eternal now. If perfection is just stability and a lack of inner conflict, the stone wins.
So if we stop the deep dive here, we end in nihilism. Life requires the suffering of desire just to keep going.
And this is the pivot point. The thought experiment refuses to get trapped there. It says, okay, we've taken the biological, survival-based definition of desire to its end point, and it's a dead end. So what if that's the wrong definition?
What if there's a higher purpose than just not dying?
Exactly. What if we've been playing the wrong game all along?
Okay, so this is where it all shifts.
Yeah.
This is where the thought experiment goes from being a sort of logic puzzle to something else.
A spiritual map, really. It recognizes the trap we just laid out. It sees that defining life purely as survival is, well, it's a very low-quality existence, isn't it? Just constantly patching holes in a sinking ship.
It's a life lived in deficit. You're always trying to fix a lack. It's a temporary reprieve from death, not a celebration of life.
Right. And so the argument makes this profound pivot. It moves the goalposts from survival acting out of deficit to aesthetics, which means acting out of abundance.
The action itself might look the same on the outside, but the internal motivation flips 180 degrees.
The motivation is now expressive, not compensatory. You aren't acting to get something, you're acting to give something.
Okay, let's make that concrete. The deficit mode of action is forced. I must work because I need to pay my rent. It's driven by fear.
The abundance mode is flowing. I work because the act of creating, of solving this problem, is inherently beautiful and engaging.
This means the new definition of perfect desire is not about stopping all action. It's about the cessation of transaction.
Action without expecting a return, action that isn't trying to fix a problem in yourself or in the world, it's just pure expression.
So in a relationship, the deficit or transactional mode is, I'll say something nice to my partner because I need them to like me, to validate me.
It's fear-based. It's an investment. Whereas acting from abundance is, I'll say something nice because their beauty is just overwhelming and the words just flow out of me. The praise is an end in itself, not a means to an end.
And you eat, not because you're in a panic about running out of energy, but because the act of tasting, the celebration of the senses, is a joy.
You're acting from fullness, not from lack. It's a subtle internal shift, but it changes everything.
To make this even clearer, the sources bring in this fantastic metaphor, the puppet versus the dancer.
This really crystallizes the difference. It's the difference between slavery and total freedom.
So the puppet,
Right.
this is the person whose actions are driven by necessity. Biology, society, fear.
The strings are pulling it. Hunger, the need for approval, the fear of death, the next dopamine hit. Its movements are compelled, not chosen. It needs to move to get a reward or avoid a punishment.
Even when the puppet is successful, it's not really free.
Yeah.
It just means it was good at following the script.
Exactly, but then you have the dancer. The dancer is the one who has realized this state of desiring nothing. They're already complete. They don't need to move.
But they do move.
They move, but it's purely expressive. It's an aesthetic choice. It's a flourish. The dancer is so full of life that their actions are just an extravagant overflow of that fullness.
While the puppet is poor, and every action is a desperate investment trying to secure a future return.
And this reframes the whole axiom for us. The perfect desire is to desire nothing equals total freedom. Life stops being this frantic crisis management operation.
And becomes an art project. Your life itself, moment by moment, is the masterpiece.
And the dancer doesn't stop moving. She might dance more beautifully and powerfully than ever before because there's no inner friction, no transactional baggage holding her back.
So what are the actual consequences of this? If you get to this state of total freedom, what changes day to day?
The first huge consequence is what some traditions call wu-wei, action without attachment, effortless action.
Because you don't need a specific outcome anymore.
Right, so all your focus shifts from the result to the quality of the action itself in this present moment.
Okay, give me a real-world example. I'm at my job. I have to write a report. How does the puppet do it versus the dancer?
The puppet writes the report because they're desperate for a promotion or they're terrified of getting fired. The whole process is filled with anxiety. Is this good enough? What will my boss think? The quality actually suffers because the focus is on the future validation.
But the dancer.
The dancer, or the person in a state of wu-wei, writes the report because they're completely absorbed in the act itself. The beauty of crafting a clear sentence, the joy of synthesizing complex information, the elegance of the solution.
And if the promotion comes, great. If not,
If not, it doesn't matter because the reward was in the doing. They are incredibly efficient because none of their energy is being wasted on anxiety or second guessing.
that explains flow states. Master athletes or musicians, they're not thinking about the trophy or the applause. They are one with the perfect motion of the moment.
That absorption is the freedom. And this leads directly to the second consequence, the end of anxiety and fear.
Because anxiety is basically suffering in advance over a future you can't control.
It is entirely based on being invested in a specific return. When you stop being attached to the outcome, you stop making those emotional investments. The fear of loss just dissolves.
If I'm not attached to getting the promotion, the anxiety of waiting for my boss's feedback goes away.
And the ultimate desire, the ultimate attachment, is the desire for my own life to continue, the fear of death.
If you genuinely don't desire the continuation of your specific separate self,
You become unthreatenable. You can't threaten to take something from someone who isn't clinging to it.
and there's the paradox. By letting go of the panicked, desperate desire for survival, you actually become better at surviving.
Far better. Your actions are fluid and precise because they aren't clouded by fear. You see the world more clearly.
You're not fighting reality anymore. You're dancing with it. The desire has been transmuted into something like gratitude.
That's a great way to put it. It's a deep, constant yes to what is, instead of a constant I want for what is not.
Okay, this is where, for me, it gets really, really interesting. Because if you stop desiring a specific future, You have to look at how that desire was messing with your perception of the present.
Yes. The source material uses this very powerful, almost jarring analogy to show the subtle violence of our everyday judgments.
The idea that desire is a kind of cognitive knife.
It is. The moment you decide on a desired outcome, I want to be successful, you have just taken that knife and sliced the entire universe into two pieces.
Good and bad.
Everything that helps you toward that goal is good. You have to grasp it. Everything that hinders you is bad. You have to fight it, reject it, eliminate it.
And that division, that act of cutting, is the suffering. Because reality isn't divided like that.
Exactly. Let's use the analogy from the text, the chess player versus the spectator.
The player is driven by the desire to win. They are under incredible stress. Every move their opponent makes is a potential threat. Every mistake they make is agony. The game is a battlefield.
The spectator has no desired outcome. They aren't invested in who wins. So what do they see?
A beautiful, complex pattern unfolding. They can appreciate the brilliant sacrifice, the tragic mistake, the whole drama of it.
They say yes to the entire spectacle. Their lack of desire allows them to see the whole, not just the parts that serve them.
Now apply that to life as a giant, open-world RPG. If I, the protagonist, am determined to become a tech billionaire by 30,
You are actively rejecting and labeling as failure a million other beautiful possibilities. Being a happy teacher, a fulfilled artist, a person who finds meaning in community, not wealth.
you're trying to optimize for one narrow path, and in doing so, you've declared all other realities as wrong.
And that's the core insight. Judgment is a blade. To desire one thing is to hack off the rest of reality and throw it away. That's the violence of ordinary desire. We're literally at war with most of existence.
And this war shows up in our daily experience as feeling like the world is glitchy.
Yes. The player who's trying to optimize their path sees any unexpected event, a layoff, a sickness, a bad storm, as an interruption, a glitch in their plan.
And they resist it. This shouldn't be happening.
Which is the very definition of suffering. The resistance is the friction. The event itself is neutral. The resistance is the pain.
Right. If I'm stuck in traffic, the traffic is just a fact. My suffering comes from the internal belief that I shouldn't be in traffic.
But if you shift to that spectator perspective, if you stop cutting reality into pieces and just say yes to the whole thing,
There are no more interruptions.
none. The business fails, the car breaks down. These are no longer obstacles to the story. They are the story, unfolding perfectly.
That's a huge mental leap. Does that mean if I get sick, I'm supposed to be happy
But
about
it doesn't mean you don't go to the doctor. It means you stop the internal war against the fact that you are sick. The mental energy drain of, why me? This is ruining my plans, just vanishes.
You remove the resistance.
And when you remove resistance, you become what the sources call a superconductor of experience.
Like with electricity. Resistance creates heat, which is wasted energy and friction. A superconductor has no resistance, so energy just flows through it perfectly.
Exactly. Suffering is the friction. Remove the resistance, the judgment that things should be different, and only the pure, intense energy of the experience remains. Whether that's joy or profound sorrow, it flows through you without getting stuck.
You're not fighting the game anymore. You're playing as the game.
And this leads to the biggest metaphysical shift in the entire thought experiment. The move from being the protagonist to being the author.
As long as I'm obsessed with my own survival and success, I'm trapped in the viewpoint of the protagonist, the little character in the story that can be hurt, that can lose.
The protagonist is always trying to negotiate with the plot, always trying to ensure a happy ending for themselves.
But when you start to embrace the bad, when loss and failure and even death are seen as necessary, meaningful parts of the story,
Your perspective aligns with the author, the witnessing presence. The author doesn't root for the character to never suffer. The author knows the suffering is what gives the story depth and meaning.
but does the author feel detached and cold? I mean, good author feels the pain of their characters, right?
That's the critical distinction. It doesn't remove empathy or feeling, it removes self-pity and panic. The author can see the tragic beauty in a downfall in a way the protagonist simply cannot. The pain is still a vivid color on the canvas, but the suffering about the pain is gone.
This brings us back to that idea of immortality, not of the body, but of the narrative.
Yes, the realization that I am not the fragile character that can be killed. I am the witnessing awareness that contains both the life and the death of the character. The author can't die. Only the protagonist can.
And this shift in perspective changes how we literally see the world.
It lifts what the sources call the utility trap. When we're driven by survival-based desire, we don't see the world as it is. We see it as a map of resources.
Right. If I'm hungry and I look at a forest, I don't see trees. I see potential firewood, edible plants, or things that might eat me.
You see a map of tools and obstacles. The utility of everything masks its reality. We never see the river. We only see a barrier to cross or a source of water.
But when that panicked transactional need for survival is gone, what's left?
The thing in itself, the reality behind our labels. When we stop needing to use the world, we finally get to see it for the first time.
The world transforms from a functional map into a gallery of art.
The tree is no longer lumber or shade. It's just this incredibly complex, beautiful expression of life, vibrating with its own truth. The world becomes transparent because the filter of our selfish needs is removed.
And here's the final twist on the biological trap. By stopping the panic struggle to outlive the world, you actually move more gracefully in the world.
You make fewer anxious mistakes. You see threats and opportunities more clearly because your vision isn't clouded by need. You end up surviving better and longer precisely because you're not desperately clinging to survival.
This is the core of the journey. The perfect desire frees you from the tyranny of your own biology and lets you become something more.
It lets you find out what it means to be truly human.
And that's where this all leads. It moves from personal psychology to a kind of spiritual definition of humanity itself.
Right. The argument is that true desirelessness doesn't make you cold or inert. It is the very foundation of love and creativity.
It's not the cessation of passion. It's the transformation of passion from a needy grasp into a generous flow.
But to understand that, we first have to define what we're evolving from.
The lower mode, the animalistic mode.
What the sources bluntly call bestiality. This is defined as non-negotiable desire made flesh. An organism that only accepts pleasure and rejects pain for its own self-preservation.
It's the ego as a separate entity. The sources call it a parasite that just takes from the world to keep its separate self going.
It sees no value higher than its own survival, its own pleasure.
But the true human, the one who has made this pivot, achieves something different.
The spiritual achievement. This is the individual who realizes deep in their bones that their life is not separate from their world. She is her world. Her identity expands beyond the mere organism.
And this completely flips the energetic flow.
It does. Egoic desire is extraction. I need the world to give me things, food, love, security, so I can live.
And true humanity is emanation.
I live to give this to the world. I don't consume the world to exist. I pour myself out so the world can exist more vividly. The energy is outgoing, not incoming.
And this brings us back to that metaphor of the knife versus the brush.
It shows how the motivation changes the nature of the action. So egoic desire is the knife. It's always cutting reality into good, bad, right, wrong. It acts to solve a perceived problem.
It sees a flaw in the universe that it must fix.
Right. If a parent is advising their child from a place of fear, the knife, the advice feels like a judgment. You are currently broken, and I am here to fix you. It creates division and anxiety.
But creative desire is the brush.
Yeah.
It only adds to reality. It doesn't fix. It adorns. It layers beauty on top of what's already there.
The parent advising from a place of overflowing love, the brush, is making an offering. I see this incredible potential in you, and here is a color you might enjoy playing with. It's joyful, excessive, and has no attachment to the outcome.
So the perfect desire is ultimately play.
Yes. Play is creation for its own sake. It's not trying to fix a mistake in the universe. It's just adding a song, a dance, an adornment.
The goal of playing is the act of playing. It perfectly embodies being passionately active while desiring nothing beyond the act itself.
And this all leads to the final destination described in the sources. To desire nothing for oneself is to become the empty space.
The container. The void that is paradoxically brimming with potential.
This is the womb metaphor. A cup that's already full of its own needs, its own ego, can't hold anything else for anyone.
Its closed system.
But by becoming empty, by desiring nothing for the self, you become the womb that can hold the entire universe. You become the container for all possibilities.
This is the state they call the true mother.
Her willingness to die as an ego, to not be the center of the story, is what allows the rest of the world to live and flourish through her.
She becomes the background so that everything else can be the foreground.
Her lack of desire is what makes her the perfect enabler of all creation. And this is not coldness. This is the purest form of unconditional love. She wants nothing, so she is free to give everything.
Wow. So we started with what sounded like a cold, nihilistic logic puzzle.
walked through the death of the fearful biological puppet.
And we end with the discovery of the creator,
Yeah.
the true mother.
The final synthesis is that desirelessness is not the absence of passion, it is the presence of love.
Okay, so let's bring this home. Let's bring this incredibly high-level philosophy right back down into your personal experience.
This is where the thought experiment concludes. It offers this beautiful, metaphorical communication from that ultimate state, from the canvas directly to us, the struggling painters.
These aren't just concepts anymore. These are messages, whispers.
And the canvas speaks in 3 different ways to each of the stages of the struggle we've talked about.
First, to the anxious painter, the striver, the one who's still caught on that first paradoxical loop, gripping the brush way too tightly, terrified of making a mistake.
The message is one of rest, of inherent perfection. The canvas whispers.
You think you must prove your worth by covering every inch of me. But beloved, your first mark was already perfect. Your last mark will be perfect. Even your hesitation, the trembling brush hovering over my surface. This too is the painting itself. Rest. You cannot ruin me.
And that's the lesson of surrender. The perfection isn't something you achieve in the future. It's already here, in this moment. The anxiety is the only thing that isn't perfect.
Then there's a second whisper. This one is for the exhausted painter.
The one who's been using that knife of judgment, fighting the world, fighting themselves. The one who is just so tired from the constant conflict.
This is the message of non-separation.
The canvas says, "You are tired because you believe you are separate from me, that I am the problem to be solved and you are the solver. You're not painting on me, you are painting aces me. We are one movement dreaming it is two."
And if your painting is the canvas, then there's nothing to fight. The struggle itself is just another color, another texture. The exhaustion disappears because the resistance disappears.
And finally, there's a message for the awakening painter, the one who's just starting to get it, the one discovering play, discovering the brush.
This is the secret, the reframing of everything.
The canvas whispers, "I was never blank. I was always full of potential, full of light, full of you."
We thought reality was a problem we had to fix, or a void we had to fill.
And the realization is that it was always full. Our job isn't to create from nothing, but to reveal what's already there.
And the final instruction, the permission for total freedom.
Laugh at how seriously you took the little game of survival and then paint like the gods. Playfully, excessively, without need for outcome.
That is the perfect desire. Play, adornment, love.
So we've come full circle. We started with that cold, logical paradox. We walked through the death of the biological puppet, and we ended with the discovery of the creator.
The final truth is that the axiom, the perfect desire is to desire nothing, isn't a void. It's the most vibrant, creative state of being imaginable.
It's not a goal you achieve, it's a truth you realize when you finally stop fighting.
And the ultimate realization is that you were never just the painter. You were the whole studio, the canvas, the paint, the light, all of it.
So our deep dive today really redefined desire. We saw it not as a simple need, but as a judgment, a knife that cuts reality into pieces. And we saw how letting go of that knife leads not to emptiness, but to total freedom, to effortless action, and to a non-dualistic love.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration. It's a journey that goes way beyond just psychology and right into the core of how we experience reality. It gives us a map to transform our daily life from a transaction into a work of art.
The deepest whisper in all of this, really, was silence. The recognition that the canvas and the painter were never actually two separate things having a conversation. They were one presence, enjoying the illusion of a dialogue.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to carry with you. If the question was always just the answer wearing a disguise, what seemingly simple question are you holding right now about your life, your future, your struggles that might already contain the very answer you're looking for? Maybe all you need to do is stop demanding an answer and start listening to the silence of this moment, which is already whole.